All right. Good morning. How's everybody doing? We get Miss Elizabeth in there. So good deal. Welcome to Tech Talk with T&E. Happy Monday. Is it a happy Monday, everybody?
It's a Monday.
It's a Monday. So anyways, today we're so happy. Today's one of our special friends and special people, Marty Marion. There's no two ways to talk about Marty, except that he's just amazing. When Marty and I met, 5 years ago, Marty, something like that?
We actually met early in 2019, I think.
Okay. And then I forget exactly the thing, but we ended up talking online, for like an hour and a half. And then he opened up the very first SEO spring training in 2019. One of the things that we try to do as hosts for conferences is we try to bring people on stage and introduce people that maybe might not have been heard of very much before, but are doing things completely different that people just don't understand. And that's what Marty did when he spoke at SEO spring training. He's an amazing human. I'm a fan guy over him. Every time we see each other, it's like, tears, all that good stuff. So anyways, welcome, my friend. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Terry and Elizabeth, for having me on. I feel the same way about both of you. There was something about an interesting chemistry when we very first met back in 2019 that I saw in both of you a desire to continually push the limits of where SEO was going. And you saw the future, that SEO was changing, that the demands of search engines for higher quality information was getting more intense, and you jumped ahead of it. And, now you're arguably one of the top experts in the world in advanced schema. I don't know that there are too many things that are much more important in terms of talking to the search engines than schema. So, congratulations for that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride, but it is. But I do think, and one of the things that you do well and I do well, and a lot of other people in our circle, of just trying to teach people that, sorry guys, this is a day and age you have to be better. You can't just be, you can't just be a normal, guy going down the ropes, taking care of a few clients here and there. And if you really want to grow your business and grow your agency and help more clients and help more people, then, you kind of just have to be better than everybody else. So that's the whole thing.
Yeah. I love what you just said, because it's a perfect introduction to what I'm about to say. It's not only that you need to, I'm just going to use a very overused phrase, be different, right? And better, whatever that means. But your clients are facing the same exact situation. The level of competitiveness and competition for getting new clients, getting new leads, getting new sales is more intense than ever. And, up until recently, the biggest challenge that brands and services, websites had in terms of organic was getting ranked, right? You need to get your web pages ranked highly, otherwise nobody sees you, and so that's great. But at that point, your competitors were other web pages that were providing similar information or selling similar products and services to, what you're selling or what your clients are selling. And so you had competition amongst other potential opportunities for people to click. Now, that's all gone now, right? The competitive set and the landscape has changed so dramatically. In organic, your main competition right now is the search engine itself. Yeah. You're competing against generative AI and direct answer boxes and no-click searches, and people are struggling to understand how do you fight a war on two fronts. And we all know from history, if you study your history, that when you fight a war on two fronts, you lose.
Mm-hmm.
So one front is you're still, competing against others who do what you do or similar, but now you're also in competition with, the most powerful beast, the final boss in the game. You're up against the search engine, who doesn't want you to click away. The search engine wants you to stay there. And you've heard me say this, Elisabeth, and you and I've had conversations about this many times. I tell my clients that Google's not a search engine. Google provides an organic search function, so they have digital real estate to put paid ads on. Google is an ad sales business.
Mm-hmm.
And the organic SERP is a tactic. Yeah, it's great. People love it. It's very helpful. It's wonderful. It's opened up a lot of industries. But the issue is it's only a tactic for Google.
Mm-hmm.
They want your eyeballs to stay on more ads so they get paid more money. And it's just that simple a formula. So when you think about SEO and where SEO is now and moving forward, you can probably make a very safe bet that the future is going to see even more tactics deployed by the search engines to prevent you from leaving the SERP at all. And what does that mean? It means organic listing, what I'll call the traditional SERP,
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to get a lot of clicks or anywhere near the clicks it used to get.
For sure.
And I've seen some studies that say, Terry, maybe you know this better than I do, that almost 40 or 50% of all searches now are no click.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
It is, for sure, 100%. And it's obviously it's not making it any easier with I think our biggest challenge right now for agencies is just getting our stuff crawled and indexed. Just I mean, it's I think it's such a nightmare. Google's had a bandwidth issue for years. They should, and now it's just with the rash of AI just coming on board, millions of pages a day, automated. People don't even need to think anymore. Now it's harder to get my little plumber site in Dallas noticed.
It's true.
And I think it's going to continue to get worse. Elisabeth and I talked about this in our meeting this morning. Is what can we do differently to put the red flag above us? Come crawl me. We're not a million hits a month traffic hog that is getting crawled 3 or 4 times a day. We're lucky if we get crawled every couple of weeks. So
yeah, or even that often.
So
this is a great topic. Let's stay here for a moment, if that's okay. The subject of crawl and index, right? Kind of crawling or getting crawled is useless if it's not going to result in getting indexed.
Sure.
And you're not getting indexed if you don't get crawled. So it's kind of, horse and carriage, right? You need both. The issue that a lot of SEOs, new SEOs, younger SEOs, people coming into the game, really get very confused about sometimes is definitions. Crawl budget, crawl depth, crawl rate. All of these things have a place, but focusing on it is kind of useless. Here's my philosophy.
Yeah.
And it's just my opinion. There could be 100 others that are just as, valid. There probably are. My opinion is that organic search today, the organic search channel today, is very much like the cell phone service provider wars of 20 years ago, right? You're an AT&T customer, and along comes this, upstart Sprint, and they want you to switch from AT&T, right? But you're happy with AT&T. Yeah, it's expensive, but you get good quality service. No real complaints. So Sprint wants you to switch. Now, that gets into the whole competitive advantage thing, which we'll address in a moment. But more importantly, and I can speak from experience because I come from the Madison Avenue big agency world, right? We handled those clients. The strategy was get someone to switch and then reach into their brain and turn off the switching molecule so they stay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing the same thing happen in organic search today. If you can get someone to click, hurrah. But when they click and they get to your destination, landing page, website, wherever they're going, you only have one job.
Mm-hmm.
That is to prevent them from leaving.
Yeah.
Period. The job is not about making a sale on the first click. It's not about, sign up for my newsletter and get notified first. That's all garbage. And the key task is to get a first-time visitor to actually stay on your website long enough so that you can stimulate what I call a deep engagement action.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a purchase, could be a download a white paper, could be a make a call, a form fill, could be a lot of things, but somebody has got to put their fingers on the keyboard, so to speak, on your site so they don't have a reason to go back to search for one of your competitors. Because if they do go back, they're not coming back to you, likely ever.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're fortunate enough to understand how to do your organic the right way so that you do get crawled and you do get indexed and you do get shown in the SERP, your job now is get the click and keep the clicker on your website. That's the job, right? So SEO is no longer a game of ranking. That's not the objective anymore. It's the cost of entry.
Exactly.
And if you're lucky enough, if you're lucky enough to get ranked, then the main objective is get the click. And competitive advantage, where one brand in e-commerce is competing against a similar brand or product, and in services, there are 86 plumbers in the same city, right? Which one are you going to call? Who are you going to engage with? There's a mental subconscious process that goes on in the searcher's mind that causes the searcher to behave in a certain way when they have options presented to them, right? So organic search today and moving into the future, it's going to get deeper and deeper, is a game of competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah. And it's, and just like you said, it's going to be, it's no longer just about SEO ranking on Google. And people, you got to have that referral traffic. You got to be marketing everywhere. You got to be doing so many different things. And if you're just an SEO guy and you don't do anything else to help your client, you're going down the negative path. So
sure, but a lot of SEOs, Terry, and let's look at the marketplace of SEOs for a moment. You've got sole entrepreneur providers.
Mm-hmm.
You've got small 1, 2, 3, 4 person small agency shops. You've got in-house departments that handle SEO for brands. And you've got the more serious players, the bigger agencies, the more sophisticated SEOs, right? So it's a segmented and stratified and fragmented industry, SEO.
For sure. Yeah.
And you and I know from our experiences in working with our clients and the kind of successes that we've seen that there are other components besides ranking that absolutely matter. If you are just in the business of helping your client rank, you've already lost. You just don't know it yet.
For sure. 100%.
So if you can't expand your skill set and your offering portfolio, then you need to partner with somebody who can provide it with you for your clients.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
And
100%.
that includes more sophisticated tactics like schema. It
Mhm.
includes very, very, very much so related tactics like click optimization,
Yep.
like conversion optimization, time on site. You know, Google will come out and tell you that, oh, no, dwell time isn't a ranking factor and click rate isn't a ranking factor and all of that kind of stuff. And sorry, but bullshit.
I agree.
There's absolutely no doubt whatsoever that the depth of consumer and searcher engagement with your listings and your sites and your pages is 100% a ranking impact, whether it's direct or indirect.
Yep, for sure. 100%. So now how do you how do you explain, this is obviously one of my favorite things that I love about what you teach. So the whole idea of positioning, positioning yourself and depositioning your competitors. It's a little different, I believe, in the digital space than it is in, say, the print space or the commercial space.
I could argue that, but let's strip away the industry for a moment. Let's just talk about the science behind it. How many of a specific, how many widgets do you need, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you find a widget that you really love, you're going to use it. And when you run out of it, you're going to buy more.
Mm-hmm.
But I also sell a widget. And I want you to buy my widget. So what do I have to do to get you to buy my widget? So everything that I do to promote the benefits, the features, how amazing my widgets are, that they cost less and they last longer and cleaner, whiter, brighter, bigger, newer, all that kind of stuff about my widget. That's great. That's the positioning part. I'm trying to get into your head that when you think about the Marty widget, you're going to think positively. But the problem is you already use the Terry widget.
Mm-hmm.
And you love the Terry widget. And you don't have a reason to switch. So positioning without the other side of the coin, which is depositioning, fails. Now, if you don't understand positioning, you'll never be able to deploy depositioning correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that for a moment. If you use, and I'll use the classic example that I teach, and it's an e-com example, but it applies equally for services, equally for brands. It doesn't matter. The concept is the same. So Elisabeth has beautiful, long, luxurious hair. She obviously takes care of it, and it looks good, smells good. She uses, I'm going to call it the Elisabeth shampoo. She loves the Elisabeth shampoo. It makes her hair clean and shiny and smells nice and easy to manage and all the good stuff that a shampoo is expected to do. When she runs out of it, she's going to buy more because she likes it.
Mm-hmm.
So we call that in the science of positioning that Elisabeth is bound to a specific preferred incumbent brand, the Elisabeth shampoo. But I come along and I have the Marty shampoo and I want her to buy my shampoo. I can talk to her until I am blue in the face about how much better my shampoo is for a million reasons. And she might say, yeah, that's fine, but I have something I'm happy with. I don't have a compulsive reason to change.
Mm-hmm.
So my job now, if it's possible, is to unbind her from her incumbent favorite so that she is now open to considering an alternative. And there's only two ways in the world to unbind a consumer or a client from whatever they're using or whoever they're engaging today. There's only two ways. One is to create a feeling of doubt in their mind. So one of my clients is engaged with a small SEO shop, and I'm trying to pitch them. I want them to switch to me, for example. So, I can tell them about all the great services and how many clients I've done SEO for, and my success rates. And I can show them all the beautiful charts and the ranking improvements, all kind of stuff that we see every day, all day, in and out, right? And they might say, well, that's impressive, but you know what? We're happy with our SEO agency. We're getting ranking, we're getting clicks, et cetera. But if I said to them, so let me just ask you, what is your click-through rate? And they say, well, we're getting, on average, I'm going to make this up, 4% click-through rate. And I said, okay, what's your conversion rate when they hit the site? And they say, okay, we're converting 8%. Okay, wonderful. So if I say to them, are you really sure those are good numbers? Seriously? If I had an SEO agency and I was getting those kind of numbers, I'd be looking around real fast. And while it seems like a bit of a sales tactic, it is, it's also triggering an irresistible compulsion that human beings have to answer questions. If a question comes into your mind, we as humans, we're hardwired to want to and try to and have to answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I can get doubt into your mind, and now you go away from the conversation and thinking, well, I'm getting a 4% conversion rate. Is that good? And now you start to do some research and you find out that in your industry, average conversion rates are 8 or 10%. Now you start to become unbound to the agency that was only getting you the 4%.
Yeah.
Right. So doubt is very powerful, but there's one factor even more powerful. And this is the grand slam home run. And it doesn't exist for every case, but it exists a lot more than we might think it was. And I'll go back to a Super Bowl a number of years ago with the beer Bud Light, right? So Bud Light was one of, if not the leading selling light beers in America. And they ran a Super Bowl commercial. And the essence of it was 4 words: brewed without corn syrup. Well, people kind of know that corn syrup isn't good for you, right? It's not healthy. So that kind of says Bud Light is, a little bit healthier for you. Right? It has no corn syrup. But much more importantly, it implies, not so subtly, that all those other beers probably have corn syrup in it. So what do? You rush to the beer you're drinking during the Super Bowl, and wow, corn syrup. Now you're at half. Because I've made corn syrup the boogeyman, and the beer you're drinking has it, or is brewed with it. Now I've separated you. More than doubt, I've created disappointment.
Yeah.
And so competitive advantage today is about not only positioning your brand, product, agency, client, service, whatever you want, to be thought of more favorably by your target than they think of others, but it is to unbind them from whatever they currently believe is good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Let's apply that to the SERP. So now we have generative AI. You go to the SERP, you ask a question, and twinkle, 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 the AI, keeps you mesmerized for the second and a half to write the answer, and you get an answer. Well, the answer is coming from A, Google, and B, some AI. So you're kind of predisposed to trust it. But what if I told you that 80% of those answers weren't accurate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we have a different task ahead of us as SEOs, is to incorporate positioning science, depositioning science for the purpose of competitive advantage, but it's no longer good enough to have competitive advantage in organic search just over your actual competitors. You're now fighting Google.
Yeah. 100%.
You have to think differently now.
So what's like a tactic maybe a local roofer would take on making sure, obviously what you're saying in a nutshell is what makes you different, better, whatever than everybody else.
So there's a very great question. I mean, it's the ultimate question. It's the ultimate question. There's a huge difference between getting an answer to a question and understanding the why and the what and the how behind that answer.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to take a plumber? Fine, let's use a plumber as an example. Local plumber. Local plumber either is the industry subject matter expert in plumbing, so they're probably capable of creating a series of very short 1-2 page white papers, checklists, maintenance lists, whatever it is. Your car won't start. So is the first thing you do replace the engine?
Yeah.
No, you check the battery, right? So, your toilet isn't flushing. What's the first thing you do? Replace your toilet? No, there's a procedure. There's a step-by-step diagnostic procedure. Why isn't it working?
Mm-hmm.
Is it just the handle on the inside that needs to be replaced? My washing machine is leaking. Do I replace the washing machine? My sink has a drip. Do I move houses because my sink has? No, you take the first steps, then the second steps, then the third step. So the person who is the educator becomes the trusted authority.
Mm-hmm.
So over time, even though AI is getting better and will continue to get better, we have an opportunity, I think, for the next year, 2 years, maybe even longer, to deposition people's belief in the accuracy of AI.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
If you use ChatGPT, I can guarantee you that 50% of the responses you get are garbage. Is it your fault? Maybe somewhat. Garbage in, garbage out. Your prompts are terrible.
Yep. That's why we train ChatGPT of what we want it to come out with.
Exactly. So the game has changed.
Yeah.
The game has changed a lot. And we no longer have to write our letters by candlelight and use a quill pen, because somebody came along and gave us electricity and ballpoint pens, and the game has changed.
Yep, for sure.
And it's up to us as marketers, as consultants, as agencies, as SEOs, as conversion optimizers, as deep schema creators. It's up to us to educate our clients to stop being complacent, because it's a fast path to loserville.
For sure. 100%. So, and you do a lot of audits, just like I do. You're more e-com based. What do you kind of see the trend is in what's kind of not necessarily stopping a site from being better, but just mainly being stagnant or mainly just being, nothing's happening type of things?
Yeah, that's a very, very important question. I'll answer it in a moment, but let me preface it by saying it's more complicated than a one size fits all answer.
Mhm.
So, the first thing is you need to be talking to, I'm going to work this backwards. You need to be talking to your prospective customers, consumers, or clients in such a way that two things happen. They are predisposed in your favor and they're predisposed away from your competitors. That's step one.
Mhm.
How do you do that? You do that by doing what leaders do, because you need to be seen as the best, quote unquote, a leader, an authority. You go to college, your first day there, you walk into a big auditorium for one of your classes, 100 students in the auditorium, everybody's talking and buzzing, and some guy walks up to the front of the room and he writes on the blackboard, Mr. Smith, Professor Smith, whatever. The automatic assumption is that guy's the subject matter expert. He's the professor.
Yep.
He could turn out to be a complete bumbling idiot. But you start off by giving him that credibility, so he's a step ahead. Same thing with a web page. If I'm coming to find out, I just bought a house. It's got a big backyard, and I want to put a fence in my backyard. It's not a cheap decision. Installing a fence is a relatively, high ticket item. And there's all sorts of complications, city permits and digging things up and buried wires and cables, right? But what's my bigger concern? What's the cost? Right? Is it in my budget? So I might want to go and look at what is the cost of a new fence. And when I get to whatever site I decide is going to help me figure that out, I learn very quickly, or I have to dig to find out that the prices of an aluminum fence are radically different than the prices of a wood fence. So the fence seller, installer company that I might click on, they got 2 or 3 seconds to convince me to stay there because they're going to give me the most valuable, accurate information.
Yep.
So that changes what happens on a homepage. It changes what happens on a landing page. It's not about selling the product anymore. It's about reaching into the mind of whoever you are lucky enough to get to your website or web page and pull them through to the second step and to the third step, right? So when I do audits, I separate it into 3 components, to be honest with you. The first component I look at is the cost of entry components. Are your technicals properly structured? Is your silo structure and interlinking of entities properly crafted and mapped out? Is your content depth intelligent? Are you leaking signals from one silo into another that's not related, right? all the technical stuff, all the on-site technical stuff. I'll look at that first. Why? Because it's the low-hanging fruit. It's fixable. You can fix it. It's on your website. I'll tell you how to fix it, or I can do it for you. But that's all easy stuff.
Yeah,
if you know what you're doing. The second component I'll look at is the competition to get Google's attention. Okay. I'm not the only person that teaches positioning and competitive advantage science. There's a lot of digital marketers out there. But in certain subjects, I get the knowledge graph, I get the featured snippet, I get position one constantly, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of keywords that matter to me. Why? And this is an unpaid endorsement testimonial. I was not compensated to say this. The reason I have hundreds of keywords in those positions is because years ago, I had Terry help me understand what deep schema was all about and create some deep schema for me that took my web pages from who knows where they were to page one very quickly and then right up to the top. Why? Because I was more valuable to Google than my competitors.
Yep.
So if we can make our clients' websites more valuable to Google than their competitors, they're likely to rank higher. They're likely to get more of Google's bonus points, knowledge graphs, direct answer boxes, whatever. So we have to ask the question, what makes one web page more valuable to Google than another in the same industry? And that is that you're making Google's job easier.
Exactly.
And
that's why I'm a big believer in making sure that, number one, when you do get the crawl is everything you want it to be. You know, this isn't the old HTML CMS days when we knew if a bot hit the top of our website, it crawled to the bottom. And nowadays it's script files and PHP files and, you know, button links and all the different things that the search engines have to kind of move around and get through. And unfortunately, they took away fetch and render, which that way at least we knew how far down a page they might have crawled. But one thing that's nice about doing the schema is it's in the head. We know the search engines crawl it. They invented it. And, you know, I'm a firm believer if your schema is really good enough at the top, they don't even need to go to the bottom of the page because they already understand everything they need to know about that page.
That right there, my friend, it's the sauce. I mean, that's the hot sauce, right? So, and I'll give you an example. I look at a lot of websites, dozens a day, literally dozens a day. My clients' websites, prospects' websites, my clients' competitors' websites. Because how do you get better than the competitor if you don't know what the competitor is doing? So competitive research now becomes an absolute must-have to do SEO. I can't just look at your website and say, fix this, fix that, change this, right? And there are some early pioneers like, you know, Kyle and others who created Surfer and Pop, whose objective was to look at the competition and tell you where the gap was, right? How much did you need to do to at least get on par with your competition, if not be better than them? But there's nothing like schema. And when I look at clients' websites, sure, I look at the consumer facing, you know, the UX, but I'm looking at the code. Why? Because Google looks at the code.
Exactly.
And if I don't know what they're seeing, how can I make it better?
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing people don't understand is that, number one, Google can't read. And number two, it doesn't give a jack what your website looks like. They don't know. They have no way of knowing. So So if you're not instilling the right signals for the right topics and the right things you're going after on that page, everybody's like, oh man, I just got some really strong H1s. And I'm like, well, that's great. What if they never get to the H1? How do you know they're even getting that far down your page? And again, we all guess that, hey, it's, Google's crawling my whole entire website, and I'm at the belief saying, well, maybe only about 5% of your website's being crawled, and people just, and unfortunately there's ways to test it, but people don't do testing anymore for the most
Right.
part, which kind of drives me crazy. But if you don't know what you're doing and why your content's not ranking, or why you have 1,000 pages that are crawled and not indexed, and all these things that, you want to make sure that you're presenting the best product to the search engines. And that's what you do. Whether we get a half a millisecond or or 2 milliseconds or whatever, we want Google and Yahoo and Bing to give us credit for what we do. That's
Absolutely. So when you look at websites, Terry, and when I look at websites, the majority that I see, maybe go to schema.org and they pull, 10 lines of schema and they throw it in the header of their website. And what does it say? It's their name, it's their specialty, it's their location, it's, what they do, and see you later. And they think they've got schema, right?
Sure.
My schema, the schema that you did for me, one of them was almost 200 lines of code.
Yep, exactly.
Why?
Yep.
Do I have 200 lines of code specialties to tell Google? Damn right I do.
Yep. How many pages show up for a search result, especially around a brand? So you search a brand and that brand has 150,000 search results. Now, of course, some of them aren't going to be all about the brand, but I believe and have tested and teach that our job with schema is to organize the internet. So when somebody searches that brand, that people, person, place, or thing, whatever, then our site is bringing everything around that topic into our site to become the authority in the space, to become, everything you want to know about Marty Marion, everything you want to know about, Salterra or whatever, that's what schema does. So schema goes and looks at all these different pages that Google knows about, but Google's not going to take all those pages unless you get 1 million hits a month and make your own type of system. So it's our job to kind of promote that to Google. So
and I'm going to transition into another topic for a moment.
Yeah, we also have a good question from Skylar here, one of my favorite questions.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So what you've actually described is a 1-2 punch. First, you have to understand that what you do on a website, what you change, what you deploy, what you augment, increase, delete, move around, all of that is tactical deployment.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
But tactics that don't derive from a strategy fail. Let's try this. No, let's try that. No, let's try the other thing. And you're testing, and testing takes time and money and resources, and and you're going to fail. So strategy comes first. Where does strategy come from? It derives from objective. So I also very strongly try to help my clients understand. Now I say, well, what's your objective? What are you looking to do with your business? I'll make more money. Get more customers. No, not really.
Nope.
That's not an objective. An objective is to create a sustainable and continuously scaling more and more profitable business. That's an objective.
Exactly.
And then maybe there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 20 strategies that could help achieve that. And for each strategy, there's several or more tactics that you need to deploy to make the strategy come to life. And so If you're just worried about, well, what can I do with my website today to get more customers tomorrow? You're thinking in exactly the wrong direction.
Exactly.
I tell this to even PPC clients. I have PPC clients who do omni-channel, they do organic, they do PPC, they do social, they do all the different channels. And what are they looking at? What's my ROAS on my ads?
Mm-hmm.
Well, on a 1 day, 7 day attribution model, I lost money. So my answer is, if you're looking to break even, make a profit on your very, very, very first sale, you're being unrealistic.
Exactly.
So if you then say, because going back to my strategy, I want to build a scaling, sustainable, continuously growing business. I don't need customers to be, one-shot Charlies. I want them to come to my website. I want them to engage. I want them to stick around. I want them to buy. I'll come back. I want them to buy a second time. I want them to buy this other product and this upsell and this, special offer. I want to keep them as a customer because LTV
Mm-hmm.
is what marketing is all about in digital marketing.
Amazing how many business owners don't understand their lifetime value of a client. It's amazing. And it's one of the most important numbers that you need to even put a budget towards marketing. That's simple. So
sure, because it doesn't return money tomorrow morning. It isn't seen as, an urgent priority. But think about it this way. And I'm going to make numbers up to make the math really easy. Let's suppose that, I'm going to use an e-com example. Let's suppose that the average ticket price of buying one of your products is $100. And let's assume, assumption's not a great idea, but let's assume that your cost of getting a new customer is running $60, which is not unrealistic.
mm-hmm.
That means you've got a $40 margin. Well, what's included in that $40? Cost of goods. Take off another 10. Now you got 30. Right? The internal cost of resources for pick, pack, ship, managing, customer service, all the non-direct revenue generating necessities. Call it another 10. Now you got $20. So you've spent 60 and you've actually put 20 in your pocket at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You're upside down. So what does it take to turn that around? Well, if that customer bought the same exact product with the same exact cost dynamics to you 3 times, you'd break even.
Mm-hmm.
If they bought 4 times, you're in the profit zone.
Yeah.
So I use a very simple mnemonic device. Anybody who's not bought from you or never called you, never filled out a form, never done what you want them to do is a 0. They've taken 0 actions.
Mm-hmm.
The first time they engage, whether it's make a purchase, call the plumber, are you available? What do I do? What does it cost? The first time they make an engagement action, they're a 1. So your job is first to get as many zeros as possible to become a 1. And not every 0 is going to become a 1.
For sure.
There's a drop-off rate. But then your next job is to make sure that the majority of 1s become a 2. And the 2s become a 3. And with every incremental piece of spend, you are further and further amortizing your cost of acquisition because you don't have to spend it a second time on the same customer.
Yeah.
So there is a method to the madness of even being an intentional loss leader on the first purchase.
For sure. Yep. And then you got, retargeting and all the other things that, funnel marketing, all the stuff that, also is an expense, but a lot of people don't do it, including Salterra. We didn't do it for years. And, and now we find out that that's pretty much 25% of our, is our customer base is the retargeting portion of it.
Right.
And these are people that didn't ever even fill out a form or make a phone call. We're just capturing data and throwing them into a funnel system, basically a cold funnel, semi-cold funnel system.
I'm going to make something available to you in about a week or two. I'm finishing it now. And I'm going to propose a fourth tier. So we know that there's bottom of funnel, which are those people who are almost ready to push the button, right?
Yeah.
Then there's middle of funnel. People are seriously considering, but they just haven't gotten to that point yet where just one little poke is going to get them to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have top of funnel that are people that we were somehow able to get to raise their hand and say, yeah, I'm interested. I'd like to discover more, right? But I'm going to propose that there's a fourth level, which may actually turn out to be the most important level of all. And that's what I'm going to call the addressable market. An addressable market is beyond top of funnel. They haven't even thought of you yet. They don't even know they have a need for what you're offering yet. Let's go back to the plumber. I don't think about a plumber every day. Why? Because my house works pretty nicely. When things break, I fix it. But you know the odds. Sooner or later, some pipe is going to burst. I'm going to have a slab leak. My sprinklers are going to flood. My sink is going to break. A washer is going to deteriorate. Something's going to happen. And at that point, I'm going to need a plumber.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? From the moment of discovery that I need a plumber, I have several choices. Well, there's a plumber I used in the past. Let me see if I can find them. I can call my next door neighbor and say, hey, Terry, you got a good plumber I can recommend? I have an emergency. Or I could search for a plumber. Now, if my plumbing problem is like I have a little drip in my sink, I don't really need a plumber to come over in the next 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But if my toilet or my sump pump is flooding my house, or I have a slab leak under the tiles in my kitchen, and the water's building up, and I'm ready to go, and build an ark to save my family, I need a plumber right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go searching, the ads that I might see for a plumber that says, by the time you finish reading this, we could already be there. That's the guy's getting my business.
It's typically the first one that answers their phone. Especially nowadays. When I was looking for a landscaper, I actually got frustrated. I called like 4 or 5 companies. Nobody answered their phone. So I went to a local Facebook group and found a landscaper. And that was the fault of somebody just not realizing to pick up your dang phone. If you're busy, just tell them you're busy. That's not a big deal. People are busy. So do not just not answer. It's like, come on. So anyway, Skylar has a good question. What's the number one factor in creating a successful e-com site?
Ooh, boy, do I love that question.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And this is going to sound really, really strange for about 4 seconds. Okay. Stop talking about yourself. Our products are all made in a super factory, all in the United States, and they're certified ISO, and they're made from ballistic plastic so they won't break. And stop talking about how great your product is, your features, your benefits. Stop it. People don't buy because of how great your product is.
Mm-hmm.
People buy for one of very few reasons. They believe that your product is going to solve a problem they believe they have, or it's going to resolve a pain point they believe they have, or it's going to fulfill a need or a desire that they may have.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one, which is this is a really powerful one, is it's going to prevent them from experiencing something negative. And the classic example is mouthwash. Why do you brush your teeth? Why do you use mouthwash? Because what you don't want to happen is to have your teeth fall out. What you don't want to happen is to have the boss who's interviewing you for the new job say, "Oh my God," right? You don't want to be embarrassed when you're going to kiss your partner. So embarrassment, something I don't want. Financial loss, something I don't want. Not losing weight, something I don't want. So you first have to ask yourself, in e-com, are you solving a problem, resolving a pain point, filling a need, or preventing something bad from happening? And you talk about that in the first literally 2 seconds above the fold, hero area. Somebody comes to the website, and the first thing they see addresses the most likely problems, pain points, needs, and desires that your target has. The only way you're going to know that is to do a little bit of research and figure out what are the top 10 reasons why people buy a widget.
Yep.
And address that right up front. All the stuff about how great your product is, the features, the benefits, the cost, buy one, buy two, save money, all this kind of, it's supporting points.
Yep, totally.
It's all support. If nobody believes your product is going to do something for them, it doesn't matter how good your product is.
Exactly. And along the same lines, I teach people to get away from keyword research and embrace query research. You've got to know what people are searching for and how they're searching, rather than saying this keyword gets 1,000 hits a month. Well, 300 of those could be other SEO companies. You have to look at the variables, but when you start looking at the queries that people actually search, which typically are in sentences, or one product versus another product, that's the stuff you write about. That's the stuff that you're solving a problem by answering a query.
Go back to SEO, Terry, because in SEO now, what happens is with infinite scroll, right? And we live in a culture of faster, now, more, quicker. I don't have time, right? People are scrolling fast.
Yep.
So their visual eyes don't have time to read every word. Their subconscious mind sees everything. So as they're scrolling, one word or two words is going to trigger a shortcut, a mental shortcut we call heuristics. That's going to cause the mind subconsciously to say, that's the one.
Yep.
And why is that going to happen? Because that's the one that's going to do what? Solve my problem, resolve my pain point, fulfill my need or desire. Now,
Exactly.
the faster and more consistently you can talk about that, the higher your sales are going to go. The other thing I'll talk about e-commerce for competitive advantage is retention and engagement. It's great to get somebody to come and buy a product one time. How do you guarantee, and I'm not talking about hope and prayer, how do you guarantee they're coming back to make a second purchase?
Yep.
And there are tactics to do that, lots of them. So e-commerce is a real science.
For sure. It is. And it's something that, I love my e-com sites, my affiliate sites, and they're probably the most fun I have working on, because, when people are actually looking to buy something and then you want them to come back and buy again and again and again, it's not like a roofer site. If you've got returning business as a roofer site, then you're probably not a very good roofer. So, but if people keep coming back and buying more pet products from you and more, because the way you're writing and the way your content is, which is, where I think everything in the world, as far as I'm concerned, is based around content right now.
So for competitive advantage, Terry, you just said something really brilliant. I want to go back to it. If you're selling something that has a fast replenishment rate, bottle of vitamins lasts a month, runs out. So that's a pretty fast replenishment rate.
Yeah, for sure.
Paper towels, toilet paper, tissues,
Mm-hmm.
all the stuff that's consumable and you go through it and you really use it, it's replenishable. Your strategies and tactics to get repeat purchases are completely different. Yeah. If the product has a long or almost never replenishment rate, how often do you buy a new home? How often do you redo your roof? Right? Not a lot.
Not a lot.
How often do you install a whole new fence in your backyard? Not often. So the seller, the marketer, the service provider, their job is not to try to get you to redo your roof every year because there's a new style of shingle that came out that's more waterproof than the last one. It's to get you to be a referral.
Yeah, for sure.
So the objectives differ. When the objectives differ, the strategies differ, and the tactics differ.
Exactly.
And it all depends on price point, replenishment rate, and how you can compel someone to believe.
100%. So you got a new course coming up, or is that what we're calling it? We're calling it a course, the 17 ways to dominate your competitors.
Yeah. So, over the, and this because, you've been involved in almost every, if not every one of my courses. I've been doing this a long time, and I tend to, and you've noticed even on this little interview, I tend to talk a lot. I think I have a lot of value to say, but I do tend to be verbose.
Yeah.
My prior courses have usually been anywhere between 18 and 24 weeks long, where I'll do a live training session once a week for 24 weeks. That's a big commitment. Yeah. It's a high ticket item. Not a lot of people can really afford to just, impulsively spend $4, $5, $6, $7, $8,000 on something that maybe they don't really even understand yet. So what I decided to do was I decided to create something that literally every single person in every one of the groups, I own an admin. In every one of the groups that my friends and colleagues own an admin that I may be a moderator of or an admin of, everybody can afford this, period. It's a no-brainer. And so what I'm going to do is it's going to be 4 sessions once a week for 4 weeks, 2 hours. This week, 2 hours. Next week, 2 hours. The week after, 4 sessions. In those 4 sessions, I'm going to focus on 17 and probably a lot more of the most powerful tactics and ways to outsmart and outflank your competitors without outspending them that you can implement right now. Easy, low-hanging fruit that if you just change your mindset a little bit, you will see massive results. And these are hardcore tactics. This is like, say this, put this here, make this bigger, say it twice, right? Put this on the left side, not the right side. And I'm going to talk about all channel. I'm going to talk about organic. I'm going to talk about paid ads. I'm going to talk about retargeting. I'm going to talk about social media. I'm going to talk about everything that it takes for you to virtually eliminate your competitor. And let me just boil it right to the end. If you're not absolutely the only one in the world that sells what you sell or does what you do, you have competitors.
Mhm.
It's just that simple, who sell the same thing or something similar enough, which means that your target customer, client, and consumer, they have choices to make.
Yep.
Only one of you is going to win the client. Which one?
Exactly.
And that comes down to how you deploy the strategies through tactics. This is a hands-on. We're not going to waste time about a lot of strategy and philosophy and fluff. And I'm not going to teach you marketing 101. You already know all of that. This is hardcore. If you want to eliminate your competitors in the mind of your targets,
Mhm.
I'm going to give you 17 ways to do this. You can implement as soon as you walk away from this course. And I'm making this thing so insanely inexpensive. If anybody, has any interest in growing their business, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. And every single one of your courses and classes have just been freaking, I mean, it's just crazy the thought process you put into this stuff that we really need to, if we're not implementing, you better quick. Otherwise, you're going to get left behind, obviously. But you also have one of my favorite Facebook groups, Master Positioning Insiders. It's a private group, but it's not any kind of you don't have to qualify for it or pay for it or nothing. So I encourage you to follow Marty and everything that he does. It's We're also looking at doing a workshop before SEO spring training this year in May, or next year, excuse me. So we'll be talking more about that and doing some stuff there. Because like I said, as far as value goes, Marty brings it. And you guys all know that's something Elisabeth and I live by is value. And we just want to make sure that, that we can do everything we need to do to, everything that works for us, we want to spread it to everybody else. And what Marty's teaching and has taught for the last 6 years, has definitely helped us. And it's always been a lot of fun too. So he's a great guy. Get to know him. This is, if you need to email him, hold on here. Yep, Marty at masterpositioning.com.
By the way, I absolutely encourage and welcome people to just reach out by email. Ask me a question.
Yep.
I may not answer you within 10 seconds, but I'll answer. Just
sure.
shoot me an email and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or should I do that? Or can you take a quick look at my homepage? Or whatever it is, I'm happy to do it. I want people to learn. Listen, if people hadn't taken the time to teach me, I would never be where I am today.
For sure.
So a little bit of paying it forward, a little bit about making my upcoming workshop. You're going to be stunned when you see the price of this thing. It's insane. And by the way, I'm going to be announcing it, that enrollment is open for it probably within 2 weeks from today, which is August 12th. So I'm going to open enrollment. There are going to be some limitations in space because, I can only accommodate so many at a time.
Yeah.
It's going to sell out. I guarantee you.
Mm-hmm.
Terry knows all my courses sell out.
For sure.
If you're going to do one thing to get your foot in the door about competitive advantage, this is the workshop to take, period.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And it's, I can't wait for it. It's going to be, when do you think it'll be ready? A couple weeks, month?
Well, I'm going to announce that enrollment opens. Right now, I'm putting a little bit of finishing touch on some of the bonuses and the logistics that I'm going to give out to people. They're going to get cheat sheets. They're going to get unlimited access to replays of the sessions. Only the people who take the workshop are going to get all of this. And it's pretty substantive. And I got a couple of really, really surprise bonuses I'm going to throw out with you at no additional cost. So I'm going to open enrollment in about 2 weeks.
Cool.
And then I'm probably going to give people a week, 10 days to sign up. And then the first class will start probably the first week of September. So
That's
we're right around the corner, folks. Right around the corner. Don't delay on this. Seriously, if you want to get on the list, go to the web link that Terry put up, and just sign up for the notifications. There's no cost, there's no obligation, and I'll email you so that you know it's open and you have a shot of getting in before it's sold out.
For sure, 100%. Yeah, it will sell out. Yeah, get into it. Whatever you can do to get into it. So a little plug for my schema course too. My schema course is actually live now, which is pretty cool. It is the most comprehensive schema course ever. It's nobody's put this stuff into it, and I show you not just how to be creative and what you can put and use schema for, but how to actually make it to where Google will love it. And so it's I encourage you to sign up for my schema course. It's not a pre-sale anymore. It is live. But yeah, sign up for that. So anyways, thank you, Marty, for your time. It was so awesome. I appreciate you. A little apologies for Elisabeth. She had some personal stuff to take care of during our call. So you'll see her next Monday. Anyways, reach out to Marty or I if you got any questions. We'll put you in touch with each other. And thank you again, my friend. Thank you for everything.
Well, thank you, Terry, for the opportunity. I love talking about this, and you're very close to my favoriteest person in the whole world of digital marketing. So anything for you, buddy, anytime.
Thank you so much. So anyways, guys, thanks for joining us. Like and share and do all the stuff that you're supposed to do. So thanks, everybody.
Take care.